This is the Cal One-on-One podcast on Cape Atlantic Live. Here's your host, Nick Kosko.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Cal One-on-One podcast right here on Cape Atlantic Live. I'm your host, Nick Kosko. With me today is Mike McGarry of the Press of Atlantic City. We're going to go a little bit around the horn here to recap the halfway point of the high school basketball season in New Jersey. The Cape Atlantic League obviously has had some surprises as we have moved along here. Mike, first of all, thanks for joining me, man. As always, I can't believe it. We were talking about football at one point when it came to how fast the season goes, but now we are already halfway through the basketball season here in 24.
Yeah, the older you get, the faster the season flies by. I was looking at it today. I guess today is Sunday, January 14th. I think the regular season has 3 more weeks left. And then, you get the Cape Atlantic League tournament and the state tournament start. So it's amazing how fast all high school sports seasons move these days.
Well, let's get right into it, but we have to start out with some of the off-the-court stuff that occurred this week. So the reports came out and the decision came down from the NJSIAA with Atlantic City. They had been banned from the state tournament and the Cape Atlantic League tournament once the regular season does conclude for the bench clearing melee incident against Mainland, which was at Mainland High School on Wednesday. What were you hearing leading up to that? And ultimately, why did the state come to this decision regarding Atlantic City?
Yeah, really unfortunate situation. A little bit of a fracas between the teams, words expressed between the teams last Wednesday. And the state has a hard and fast rule that 3 ejections during the course of the season cost you a state tournament, a chance to compete in the state tournament. And the Cape Atlantic League has a rule that if you can't compete in the state tournament, you can't compete in the Cape Atlantic League tournament. Now, Atlantic City, if you leave the bench, it's an automatic ejection. And the state, in looking at the video the next day, came to the conclusion that, more than 3 Atlantic City players left the bench. So as of right now, they are out of the state tournament. Now, I do know this, that the Atlantic City School Administration is planning to speak this week about, what their plans are for possibly appealing this situation. I'm not really sure if there is an appeal process. From what I understand, you might be able to appeal the ban from the state tournament, but you can't appeal the individual ejections and suspensions that come with it. So we'll see what develops this week. I know Atlantic City is planning to try to appeal in some way and get reinstated for the state tournament, and we'll see what happens.
So when you look at that, and just one more on this, when they go through that appeal process or whatever kind of process they're going to end up going through this week, in your time covering the area and just maybe seeing other examples of this, do teams and schools usually get their wishes granted? Is it likely that they could overturn that decision? Because it seems like right now they're just going to be playing out the regular season just based on the decision, and then all of a sudden there's no postseason basketball.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen too many appeals granted in my time of, covering NJSIAA, hearings and things like this. This same thing happened last year to the Woodbury girls, who were favored to win a state Group 1 title. They had same sort of thing. There was an incident during a game. They had 7 players leave the bench. I think it's a bad rule. I think, I understand the desire for sportsmanship, keep situations under control, but I think, and I'll probably write this week for my column, I think instead of 3 ejections, I think it should be 3 incidences. And an incidence can be 1 ejection or it can be 5 ejections. And obviously, I think I would also give the NJSIAA the discretion to say even 1 incident is maybe enough to throw you out of the state tournament. But I just think it's a tough way to leave, for kids to lose a state tournament because of the situation that happened the other night. Like I said, nobody got ejected during the game. Peace was quickly restored. The game was continued without incident. It seems like a harsh penalty to pay for what happened on Wednesday night. So we'll see what happens going forward.
Yeah, and unfortunately took away from a solid win for Atlantic City on the road, as they're currently tied for first now in the Cal National Division with Mainland. But of course, they have the head-to-head tiebreaker, and they're scheduled to play again in a couple weeks in Atlantic City in February. So let's talk about that game real quick, knowing that was one of the marquee games of the week as we hit the mid-January point. Again, Mainland is a favorite in the or one of the favorites in the Cape Atlantic League. Atlantic City is coming on strong in the second year under Wayne Nelson. Now they're both 10-2 after that game on Wednesday. What were your biggest takeaways from Atlantic City? Just really imposing their will defensively, as pretty much they have all season long.
Yeah, I thought Dan Williams said it best, the mainland coach. I mean, that Atlantic City, was tough and won on toughness in the fourth quarter of that game. I thought it was, what makes the banning from the state tournament even more, hurtful for Atlantic City is I thought that was Atlantic City's best win since the 2020 South Jersey Group 4 championship season. They kind of showed that they're back and that they have to be considered a South Jersey Group 4 contender. And then all of a sudden, boom, they're banned from the state tournament. But I was really impressed with the play of Peaky Roseborough, the Atlantic City junior guard. He sort of set the tone for the whole situation. He scored early to give the Vikings some confidence early. He made big plays late, both with, his ability to get to the rim and his ability to set teammates up. And as for Mainland, I think they're 10-2. It's funny how the season goes. 10-2. Mainland loses back-to-back games. Well, they lose in overtime to Eastern, who's 11-1, and they lose by 1 point to Atlantic City. So I think Mainland will be fine. I do think that they have a lot of football players on the Mainland team. Obviously, 14-0 state Group 4 champs. I think maybe they're in a little bit of a dead legs period here, but I'm sure they'll get it back. They got a big game tomorrow against Paul VI down at Middle Township.
So let's take a look ahead to what's coming up. And actually, before we get into that little showcase event at Middle Township, which you'll be at tomorrow, over in the Cal American division, we know that division is loaded this year. I know the defending state runner-up EHC is going through their growing pains as a rebuilding team. So it's kind of flipped now to the top of that division where Middle Township, Ocean City, and St. Augustine Prep are the teams to beat. But if you're looking at those top three, I got to imagine Middle Township is really looking like they're going to be the overwhelming favorite when you look across the entire Cape Atlantic League when it comes to that conference tournament.
Yeah, I put Middle the favorite. I don't know if I'd say overwhelming. I mean, they are 11-2. They're off to a standout start. They're undefeated in South Jersey. I think their only losses are to Archbishop Carroll of Philadelphia, and then they lost yesterday by 2 points to that College Achieved charter school out of Asbury Park. They've got a big game with Atlantic City on Monday. I'm in favor of, I think Middle obviously is a very good team, but watch out for Ocean City, 10-1. Only loss is to Middle Township at home. Corey Segage averaging about 24, 25 points a game. Dylan Schlater at point guard there. Really a great season so far for Ocean City. And what I was impressed by Ocean City is I think they got off to the 7-0 start, right? They had the big win over St. Augustine. They're down 20. They come back and beat the Hermits. They lose at home to Middle Township, but then they turn it right back around and they get wins over a tough Millville team, a good EHT team, and now they're 10-1. So they didn't let that loss to Middle sort of sidetrack them. So, and they've got some interesting games this week coming up. I think Ocean City hosts St. Augustine on Thursday, and then they've got Lower Cape May, who leads the United Division on Saturday. So an interesting week for Ocean City, but I don't think we can overlook the Red Raiders or what they've done this season.
Without a doubt. You actually just mentioned the Lower Cape May Regional Tigers, of course, down there 11-2 in that United Division, first place at the moment. Appliance, to me, another surprise team, or at least building a little bit faster than maybe anticipated. And of course, rounding out the top three is Vineland, only at 6-7. But when you look at that United Division, Mike, I know you just mentioned Lower Cape May and how well they've played this year. What do you make of Lower Cape May and even Appliance at this point as the top two teams in that division?
Yeah, I mean, the United Division is the teams that are kind of building for the future, and Lower Cape May, maybe the future is now for the Caper Tigers. I mean, Mackie Bonner, 4-year senior guard, has been outstanding for them. His brother Ty Bonner, I believe a sophomore guard, has played well, and they've won a lot of good close games down there for Lower Cape May. Abzagami, Isaiah Akapasa, the rebounder right there, averaging about 20 a game, double-digit rebounds. I mean, he's a force that has to be dealt with, every game. And you got an Abzagami team that kind of flew under the radar last year and went to the South Jersey Group 3 semifinals. So it would be wise to pay attention to this year. But so far, Lower Cape May just having a tremendous season led by the senior guard, Mackie Bonner, down there.
So you're going out to a Middle Township tomorrow. Mike McGarry of the Press of Atlantic City with me here on Cal One-on-One. So you look at that showcase event tomorrow. Mainland plays in the morning. Atlantic City plays in the evening. We mentioned the marquee games. What are you looking forward to in that 4-game slate tomorrow? Obviously, it's on Martin Luther King Day, so it's a good way to kind of transition us into the second half of the regular season.
Yeah, just looking for, Mainland to sort of get back on track against Paul VI. I saw Paul VI play yesterday. I saw them beat St. Augustine by about 6 points. Paul VI really controlled the game. The Hermits made a run at him in the fourth quarter, and Paul VI was able to withstand that. Paul VI 8-3. I think I've got them number 5 or number 6 in our Elite 11. So it'll be a good test for a Mainland team, that lost to Eastern, lost to Atlantic City, then came back with a close win over ACIT, I believe, on Friday night, 44-40. We'll see if Mainland can get back on track against Paul VI. We're obviously interested in seeing, what is up with Atlantic City. How many guys do they have out? Suspensions, that sort of thing. Atlantic City Middle, obviously always, two of the magic names in Cape Atlantic League basketball. Great to see them. And then 2 interesting girl games, right? You got the Middle Township girls, Madison Palak and the bunch testing themselves against Bishop Eustace. And you got an Egg Harbor Township team that suffered its first loss of the season to Ulmer last week, playing, an Atlantic City team that has played a tough schedule so far this season. So 4 good games, 4 games involving, all with a good angle there to sort of look forward to tomorrow. And you're right to sort of like, it really is the sprint now for the last third of the regular season, basically.
You mentioned the girls' games as well. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention some of the top teams on that end as well. So you just mentioned, Mainland's undefeated right now. Wildwood Catholic, Middle Township. It's actually amazing, Mike, that considering the Cal American division this year is run by those 3 teams. And it seems like other than Ulmer, those are the 3 best teams in the Cape Atlantic League on the girls' side this year. So I would imagine that's going to make for a fun stretch run here before we hit the conference tournament.
Yeah, that American division right now, you've got Mainland Regional in control. The Mainland girls undefeated. They had a big week. They beat Wildwood Catholic at home. Casey Bretonas had a great game, scored 26 points that game. Then they come back and they go on the road to Trenton Catholic. Not an easy place to play and win up there by a point. So right now they've got the edge. But Wildwood Catholic right behind them, right? Casey Mikulski gets her 1,000th point on Friday night in a win over Lenape, I believe. Wildwood Catholic girls are right there, right behind Mainland. The 2 teams will play again in the regular season. They could meet again in the CAL tournament. And you said a lot of talent in that American division. Abzigami guard Reese Downey, I think she made 8 3-pointers the other day, a school record right there. And in that middle division, the national division, you're right. Ulmer got the win. Madeline Bernhardt got her 1,000th career point. Savannah Prescott, another senior point guard, she's closing in on 1,000 career points. They got a win over EHT to sort of take over first place in that division. So those 2 teams are tops in the national division right there. And as far as the United division, you've got the Lower Cape May girls who have quietly kind of taken control of that division. I think they've won 6 or 7 in a row.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. Lower Cape May 9-1. You mentioned 6-0 in the division. ACIT right behind them as well, 9-2. And again, it seems like the girls basketball this year, going into what we're hoping is going to be a good Cape Atlantic League tournament, not as top heavy this year. It seems like the talent's pretty much spread out. You have a lot of good teams and some younger teams, maybe like an EHT, which was building 11-1, as you just mentioned before, played Ulmer pretty tough. It seems like the talent's now pretty spread out across the girls' side compared to the boys' side this year, where you have a lot of great teams and everyone else is kind of going back on that roller coaster ride, maybe rebuilding and maybe could surprise down the road. But it seems like the girls, there's a lot of high-quality basketball going on right now through the midseason.
Yeah. And a lot of that is because of, EHT, the revival of their program, Ulmer coming along, stepping up their program. And we mentioned Abzigami and Reese Downey, of course, Holy Spirit, Sabrina Little has done a great job there for the Spartans. They're another team that's played well. Wildwood Catholic. And then let's not forget about, even though they're not Cape Atlantic League, let's not forget about Wildwood and Macy McCracken, only a junior, more than 200 3-pointers, averaging 24 a game. So we'll make them honorary Cape Atlantic League team Wildwood, but let's not forget what the Wildwood girls are doing down there below exit 10.
No doubt. So, Mike, just a couple more for you as we wrap up here on Cal one-on-one midseason point here in the basketball season down here in South Jersey. Are there any players that are standing out to you that maybe you expect to have good seasons, but they're having great seasons, or maybe some under-the-radar players that we haven't really mentioned, even on these good teams, or even some of these teams that are kind of coming along strong now as the season progresses?
Yeah, I mean, two guys. One's Corey Segich of Ocean City. I know we talked about him before, but we knew he was a good player coming back. I don't think people envisioned that him having the type of year he's having right now. And the other guy, scored his 1,000th point on Friday night, and as a good team playing well right now is Hamilton. Kenny Smith, the junior guard from Hamilton, played outstanding. I mean, Hamilton very quietly had a great week last week. They beat Atlantic City at the buzzer last Monday, and then they go and beat rival St. Joe by 2 points on Friday. And now they've got a big game at Mainland on Thursday night in a big national division game. So Kenny Smith, great running back for Hamilton, also a great basketball player, got his 1,000th point this week. So yeah, there's a lot of things, a lot of people that you can overlook or teams at this time of year, but those are two right there, Segich and Kenny Smith, for what they've done so far this season.
Well, Mike, you mentioned the action coming up tomorrow at Middle Township, so be on the lookout for that. Any other games sticking out to you as we? I can't believe this. We're going to wrap up the regular season already in the next couple of weeks before the conference tournament starts. Any other regular season matchups stick out to you as we look ahead over the next 2+ weeks?
Yeah, I mean, just this week alone, you got a big, like we mentioned, Mainland, Hamilton, St. Augustine, Ocean City, I think is big. And then it'll be just the rematches, right? You'll have a rematch with Ocean City and Middle Township coming up. You've obviously got Atlantic City and Mainland possibly playing again on February 5th at Atlantic City. And then you've got the kind of showcase events, right? The Battle by the Bay, that first weekend in February. The Mainland girls will be playing St. John Vianney, a traditional power, at their place in their kind of war at the shore event where they have Cape Atlantic League teams match up against teams from the Shore Conference. So just a couple of those showcase events and regular season games that'll sort of, rematches of games we've already seen, but games that will decide the division winners.
Mike McGarry with me here on Cal One-on-One, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service on Cape Atlantic Live. Mike, appreciate the time as always. Looking forward to this stretch run here in high school basketball. Have a good coverage session tomorrow with those 4 games. That's going to be a loaded showcase event. Obviously, we'll be seeing you across the Cape and Atlantic County areas as the season progresses.
Yeah, anytime, Nick. Always love talking basketball and always love talking hoops with you. So thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it as always. Mike McGarry with me right here on Cal One-on-One.